Platform, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Trevor Scott, and with me, as always, is Ben Slinger.
It's me. I'm the other guy. Welcome,
Yay.
welcome.
We're both guys, we're here, and we're actually both had our first vaccination. So that means that we've gone over the threshold for this podcast to sort of loosen things up a
This podcast is
little bit.
at least 70% partially
First vaccination.
vaccinated. First shot.
That enables us to bring in a little bit of easing restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to be so locked down anymore. What we are going to have, though, is a threshold in each of our games today.
Yeah. So I think each game, will have the concept of some sort of threshold in every game. That's going to be our restriction. And we're going to keep doing this until we're fully out of lockdown or until it just gets tedious and we don't want to do it anymore.
Oh,
But,
that was an option, was it? Okay, it got tedious about 2 or 3 episodes ago.
Says you, Trevor, says you. I think the restrictions help. And look, if we don't end up using them in the game, it's fine. So
It's our own self-imposed rules, unlike rules around the state, which are definitely not self-imposed. They
No,
are
as many
actually
people
laws.
like to think that they are. Yeah. What's this game we're talking about? It's Click Pitch, and it's a game where we each have a random word generated in front of us. And on the count of 3, 2, 1 click, we're each going to get a new adjective and a noun, and we're going to use those to create a little video game. One of those things.
Just a little one.
Just a little one, just like 5 or 10 minutes or 20 or 30 or 40, depending on how far we get into it, like sometimes happens. But, if we're finding it fun, we'll keep it going. And if we're not, we'll throw it away. So let's start.
3, 2, 1 click.
Unsafe explosive.
Assorted pleasure.
I mean, you could take explosive in a number of different ways when combined with those other words.
I mean, I get a lot of pleasure out of looking at explosions, fireworks.
Yeah,
It's assorted colours.
I get a lot of pleasure out of an assortment of like lollies, some of which might be unsafe because they're disgusting. Like jelly beans, for example.
Especially black ones.
I don't mind the black ones, actually, but for some people...
Yeah, I hate black ones.
You have to be... I wouldn't want to eat the black one last, is the thing. You have to... See, I actually eat them first, get them out of the way, because they're okay, then enjoy the other ones. So can we make a game out of... Because there's also that whole thing about, like, would you eat the M&Ms if you knew one of them was going to kill you? Kind of. So in other words,
would you eat the M&Ms if you knew that one of them was a Skittle?
Yeah.
And you're allergic to Skittles.
Choke. Yeah, that very, uncommon but totally real Skittle allergy.
Yes.
That exists.
Taste the rainbow, taste the death.
Taste the painbow first.
Taste the painbow. Okay, assorted pleasure. That's, just the idea of a VR game where you get to take handfuls of assorted candies and throw them
using the full on like Quest finger detection stuff. So you're like grabbing a handful of candy and it's like running through your fingers, falling out between the cracks. And the threshold is, of course, like a certain percentage of them are poison.
Yes. Okay.
Is this just a Russian roulette style?
Are they? How they used to say taste the rainbow and all this sort of stuff, and I remember there being something about a flavor explosion. Well, what if having a Skittle is literally a flavor explosion that blows your head apart?
Okay, interesting. So how are we utilizing that for gameplay?
You've got to collect all those flavor explosions, and you use them as your weapons in the game because you throw them at someone, throw them into people's mouths, and their heads explode.
Well, hang on. Because you talked about the VR, that's cool. You got bags of bowls of lollies, candy, whatever in front of you, different things. Is this a VR social game, Jackbox-esque, but in VR? And the explosive candy is like almost an extra mini game, or almost like a. So we could figure out what the actual games are that you're playing, but like if you take a handful of candy, you might get a bonus in the game, but you're taking a risk. And because then of course every time someone takes some candy and doesn't get their head exploded in a flavor explosion, there's more chance that the next person will, because the ratio of explosive to non-explosive has changed in that bowl. So there's some sort of mechanic
in this whole room. Is it this whole room that there's a rogue skittle that made it into this room?
Yeah, or 5,
and
or like 1 per player or something, or like whatever it is. It's almost a Russian roulette style thing.
There's 5 players and there's 4 skittles, so there's always going to be one winner.
Yes.
It's exploding kittens rules, in which there's always you take them out until you've got just the right amount, so you got one winner. Is this almost a card, like that sort of card game, but we're setting it in VR, so we're not actually limited to physical cards. It's something to do with the candy, whether the candy is actually like the main sort of thrust of the game, or if it is sort of a side scoring thing or something where you can use it as a boost, but you're taking that risk every time. Or do you think there's something in the game that like compels you have to take a handful, or you get a choice to take a handful? Okay, I kind of like the idea that this is what was that role playing game with the Jenga tower? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, Dread.
So this is a new role playing game that is set around a table, and you're all sitting there.
Yeah. And
it's that whole thing where you're taking snacks and all that sort of stuff. But as part of the game mechanics, that when you actually want to do something, you have to take, you can take
type of snack.
You can take a couple of M&Ms and you can have them, and that gives you a certain amount. But if you take a handful and shove that into your gob, basically you've increased the chances of success, but you've also
increased the
risk of critical failure.
Yeah. Yes. I like that. I think still doing it in VR, because I just love the idea of watching someone shove candy into their mouth and literally seeing their head explode in color everywhere. Yeah. And then like for the rest of the game, that splat is just everywhere and they've got like a ghost head.
Yeah. So I like the idea that the characters can still play their
well, maybe there's a role in here for the dead characters too.
Yeah, that they sort of join the NPCs then, or something like that, or they.
Yeah, well, I think if we're going to do
or in the Among Us sort of thing, they can still perform their tasks, but they can no longer win. So they can help help the whole team along, but the person who survives the longest is obviously the winner of this role playing adventure.
So is this? Because we're going with the kind of snacks around the table thing, is this maybe almost a Munchkin-esque thing where it's a spin, or it's like a satirical spin on an actual Dungeons & Dragons game, but with actual rules, like with that, I mean, not that Dungeons & Dragons doesn't have rules, but you know what I mean, like an actual...
And not that Munchkin doesn't have rules.
Well, of course. But, yes, I mean, it's not just a role-playing game with a Dungeon Master and stuff, it's using the tropes and the trappings of a tabletop role-playing game, but a bit more actual structured rules. And it may even be that one of you at different times you get to be the DM or something, and you have some extra powers for a time or something like that. Like we play on those ideas, but it's actually more just like a multiplayer board game. Because one thing that, I mean, Munchkin obviously does this a bit, but I like playing up that metagaming around the table a bit more, where you can, draw a card and it's something like, the dungeon master has a grudge, is holding a grudge against you, so all rolls, you'll get a disadvantage on or something or whatever. Like anytime
you were caught slacking. In other words, you didn't grab your handful quick enough. So now, the DM, wwho is actually, I think a computer controlled DM that is actually forcing you to take another handful.
Yeah, okay. Time. I like the computer controlled DM, because do you know what that just gave me vibes of?
What?
Do you remember the old VHS games like Nightmare?
Oh, yeah.
Where you just had the picture that came up on the screen at different times. It just, you obviously wouldn't do it quite like that with this one, but it just gave me those vibes of all of a sudden you've got this like person telling you what to do in this board game, essentially.
I mean, wouldn't it be fun if it's set in a basement? So
yeah, I think you'd lean right into those tropes. And
then behind the Dungeon Master, like you got the Dungeon Master screen, and then you've got like a CRT TV with a VCR there.
That's not quite. I wasn't quite thinking to go that far. That could be a good little Easter egg, actually. But what I do like is you've got the Dungeon Master screen, and that Dungeon Master just like pops up sometime. Like that's when they are giving instructions. They're just like, come out of that Dungeon Master screen. Otherwise, they're like,
it's just a puppet.
No, I like that having the setting and stuff, because then you can add things into the game where it's like, oh, you rolled a certain way, and that means the DM's mum comes down and like is handing out snacks or something, and you know that affects the game in some way or whatever.
What if each character that you play gets assigned a random allergy?
You could have traits like that, whether it's not that everyone has an allergy, but like you roll your character, but what you're rolling is your player, not your actual character that they're playing. They get determined for you, like they're just standard. But yes, you essentially roll your player.
You roll your stats, and if you take a dump stat in charisma, and that actually gives your player, your acne and all this sort of stuff.
Your Dungeons and Dragons players, you can't put anything in charisma. They're all dump stats. No, I like that, and you could even have some things that either come out through the game or that are rolled into it, where it is about the relationships around the table to a certain degree. It's like, oh, you two are friends, but like this person, that they don't get along or whatever. And so if there are like things that come up between the actual characters on the table, but between and then the players have different advantages and disadvantages.
It could be very much, murder mystery night rules, where you get given like a sheet of paper that you sort of read, and it's like, okay, I'm the best friend of the DM. I like this character, and will get a buff if I help them out in combat. And
I guess at what point, like, do you hide that from the other players then? Or I guess some things you might.
I think it's you're the only one who can view it. Like it's on a screen or something for you that
only you can see.
Oh, basically, I think everyone's seeing the same screen, but the difference is they're only seeing their own stats on it or whatever. So it's just
right. Yeah. Well, because I do like some of the things then of secret information, which is something we enjoy doing things with, and which is perfect for VR.
Mm-hmm.
Where it might be like, oh, you have a crush on, this player, on Jeremy. And that may or may not come into play in the game, I guess. But maybe you get bonuses in some way for playing
as I said before,
those.
About helping out in combat and that sort of stuff. And, of course, eating the snacks around the table and, taking a swig of the DM's mum's tequila. That gives you another bonus stat.
Yes. Maybe it depends. That could be a character trait of like, if you get the like rebel kind of character, then they can steal from the liquor cabinet as one of their actions.
As long as they selected the trinket at the start of the master key, because that actually gives them access to.
Or if their charisma is high enough that they can convince the DM, who is a computer, to like unlock it for them.
Yeah,
maybe that's like a roll. It's a contested roll against. Actually, I kind of want to lean into now that essentially it almost is a tabletop game where each turn you've got like a couple of certain actions you can take. They don't have to be playing the game. They could be going and getting a snack. They could be taking the candy. They could, you've got different things.
Going to those, the corn chips that are the roulette ones that have like the hot chip and then, it's 1 in 6 chance of getting the really hot chip.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you take a small handful of those and that gives you, like an extra chance
so it's
in
not
your next
necessarily
roll.
just the Skittles and stuff with the explosive of the flavor explosion. It could be, yes, you can eat the hot the roulette chips, and you might get a bonus from the like extra cornstarch that you just ate, or it could set your hair on fire and you miss a turn or whatever it is,
Oh, you go to open the 2 liter bottle of Mountain Dew that you got. Was it shaken up? Like, did someone else use their turn to actually shake it up a little bit?
Well, and again, that could come into, who you want to screw over. There's the other social dynamics there of you don't want certain other people to win, and so you can take your turns to sabotage them in some way.
Well, if they go off to try and get snacks or I'm imagining that a couple of the characters, well, one of the characters at least, they get a bonus, like, or advantage on the next roll if they go to the bathroom in the roll before. So, something's coming up and it's like, okay, I'll go to the bathroom now.
Yeah.
But now other people are still getting their turns and they're like, I'm going to shake up their Mountain Dew now so that they get disadvantage.
I love that because, again, the benefit of VR, you can hide that from them. Like, literally, you transport them to the toilet for 60 seconds, give them some little things to play with in VR so they're not too bored. But meanwhile, in the other room, the characters are doing whatever they want, to their stuff. But obviously knowing that the other people who are still around the table can see them, might tell them about it if there's other social stuff going on there. So there's a lot of reading the room going on. I like this a lot. I think there's a lot you could do with really applying those sort of D&D-ish or board game rules to the actual players around the table. And that works really well for VR.
There's definitely, when you get towards the end of the game, the aggression of, flipping the table sort of thing of.
I think that's your nuclear move though, right? Because that essentially ends the whole game. So you've got to have some good things up your sleeve to be able to pull that off. But
because people can actually, if they didn't use their nuclear move, which was to, say that they're calling their mum or something like that and leave.
Yep. Jesus,
there's just so many
really
fun
funny.
Things that we could do with this.
That's really funny.
And look, we didn't take it sexual. Like, Assorted Pleasure was literally going to take it. So
no, we just went for the. I mean, I don't know. I feel pretty horny for Skittles sometimes, but that might just be me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on. I really like that one though.
Incompetent elitist.
Base roll or bass roll, I guess. BASS. And roll being ROLE, so it could be. Maybe this is another role-playing game around bands. What were your words?
Incompetent elitist.
Competent elitist. I mean, that works for bands as well. Bass roll. Okay. I do like the idea of this being around a bass guitarist.
Yeah, I want to see this as a open world Skyrim-esque RPG about a bassist who got fired from his band and is now looking for, he got fired from his band for being incompetent or something like that, basically.
Or like the incompetent elitist is like the guitarist from the band who is got, high visions for themselves above their standings and kicked you out because, your visions didn't align.
Yeah. A la your Brutal Legend or something like that, where you get to go out into the world. The difference is that it's not a full-on, hack and slash.
It's not a fantasy metal. Is it a fantasy metal world though, or is it a?
I think it needs
situation?
to be a fantasy metal world.
Okay.
Because there's something about fantasy metal that is actually kind of cool.
I love
taking from a particular song by a band. I'm not sure whether you heard of them, Kurodust.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah. They had this song, funnily enough, called Kurodust, that they talked about their bassist having this mystical power to like vibrate himself through other things.
Yeah, I think now it's coming back to me. I think all of the band members had various powers.
Yes. So I think in this game, the bassist, his name just eludes me for the moment. He sounds pretty awesome.
Probably nobody too important.
Let's not
good looking.
Let's not actually say that it's the Kurodust members, because I am the bassist, and the guitarist was not incompetent. He's actually one of our very good friends. So
yeah, no, I think but I do like the idea then. Okay, of
super rock powers.
Yeah, essentially a game where musical skill gives you superpowers. Essentially, this is normal.
Yes,
I think. Is it just music then in this world that gives you powers, or is it that everyone has some sort of superpower related to their like skills?
Well, I think it's that whole thing of in Skyrim, you're the Dragonborn, so therefore you can use all the shouts and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
No one else can really use those. As you go through, in your first dungeon that you go through, you get the power to vibrate yourself through certain bars and all that sort of stuff, and vibrate yourself through matter. Later on, you actually, you get the electric guitar that sends out electric shocks to
well,
people.
hang on. I think this would be better as then a party-based RPG, where essentially, no, but come on, because then you're building up your actual band as you go. Like the thing is, the start is obviously you kicked out of this other band, whatever. They might just become side characters, or maybe that guitarist becomes the nemesis or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then the game, the rest of the game is you're building up the rest of your band, and you can have choices of who to bring into your party. Like with some of those RPGs, you can choose who are your companions.
So maybe there's like 3 or so different guitarists that you can choose between, and
yeah, exactly, and singers and drummers.
Singers a dime a dozen, like they're just everywhere. Like, but to get it, hang on, that was a big finger that I just got put up in my face. Oh, that's right, Ben was the singer in our band. I forgot about that part. Then there's a few different drummers that you can choose between.
Yeah, exactly. I think you meet these different people along the way, different personalities, and then by the end, it's going to end in this fucking epic rock battle with your chosen companions. And that's fun. That's cool for the player to see that all come together in the way that they've chosen.
But of course, you've got the side quests along the way that are all about getting the money to be able to buy that new equipment or buy that new amp. Well,
yeah, I think you'd level up essentially by being able to afford better equipment, then there's perhaps like a reputation sort of thing of like, if you get good enough to play a certain venue, then okay, and that's a battle essentially, and you can level up in that way to bigger and bigger venues and stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, is this a world then? Because we talked about the rock fantasy world. How fantasy is it?
It's not Skyrim fantasy
but is it even to the brutal legend level of like giant towering metal statues of metal gods, or are we more talking just that it's not it's not the real world where someone coming through with magical superpowers, rock superpowers is gonna, like, people are gonna lose their mind. It's somewhat expected that people have different varying levels of abilities.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea that there are cities that you can go through and all this sort of stuff. And there's one big set piece that I'm imagining where you play like a gig in the middle of the game after you've chosen your sort of characters, and all the powers, sort of go out and like set this whole city on fire and start crumbling the buildings and all this sort of stuff. And you realize, shit, we don't have enough control over this. And
that's cool. Yeah. I like that idea of actually, because you don't often see that in an RPG. You're so often just building up from nothing. Your powers from nothing. I like the idea of that you actually build them up so fast that you lose control of them. And then the next part of the game is you learning that control and that's cool, actually.
That having that set piece, the only reason why I said it is because if you look at the album cover of Containment Failure, there's like a fucking city falling down in the background.
Yeah.
But I just thought, it's actually kind of cool having that feeling of, just having too much power and now having to control it through.
Well, it'd be interesting to bring in some mechanics during that of like attempting to gain control of it and not being able to. Like, I like the idea that, and I don't know if we want to bring in rhythm-based stuff or whatever, but I like the idea of utilizing the UI in ways where it's like, okay, up to this point, you've like fired off your different powers as you attack things or as you play. Like maybe you've got different meters for audience response, or I don't know, however that
a threshold as such.
Battle, yeah, perhaps a certain threshold. However that battle gameplay works, but I love the idea of that building up and the player realizing, whoa, I'm getting so powerful, and then realizing, things are destroying around me, and literally not being able to fail then. Like you start building up to the point where, and maybe it is the thresholds, like if you're triggering rhythm-based things, it's like the thresholds for when they can get a successful trigger on a rhythmic thing gets bigger and bigger until the point that like literally the player can be hammering whatever button they want and you're still just getting more and more powerful and more, every hit is successful and super successful and building up this combo to this epic stage.
This is where we get into the review section of our game of our podcast, where we talk about a game that we've both been playing a little bit recently. I've finished the game, you haven't yet, called The Artful Escape by Beethoven and Dinosaur. Fantastic game that I recommend everyone try it out. They did something amazing with the music. The fact that when you actually get into these certain sections of the game where you can literally hit any of the buttons of X, Y, B, and the two shoulder buttons, shoulder bumpers, and it all just fits together so nicely.
Yeah.
And you get those sort of small rhythm sections that you cannot fail. Like you can actually just go through. I get the feeling that would work so well in this game right now. Like,
yeah.
And if it was done as well as that, like you're playing with values within the key that.
Yeah, they're always complementing each other, so it's all going to sound good, but you've basically got control over the rhythm and the specific chord progressions and things that you're playing.
Yeah. I literally tried to get it to not sound good in The Artful Escape, and it was very hard to get it to not sound good because they did such a great job on that, and I would love, it's now making me think, it can actually be done, and this game actually kind of feels like it could build on that, but also have a bit more of a, sprawling story. Like, not that I didn't really enjoy the Artful Escape story, but I think in an RPG setting, it would also work very well.
Yeah. I think having those, like we've talked about, the different choices within your party and more open worldy, sort of layout and side quests and things, certainly, bringing in more of those RPG level mechanics.
So I like the idea that you get to choose what character you are, what your main character is at the start. So you can choose the bass player, you can choose the guitarist, you can choose and if you want a slightly bigger band, you can actually go with a lead guitarist and a rhythm guitarist, and maybe rhythm guitarist is a singer.
Maybe that they have some crossover skills in different situations for sure. And if you get a combination of like, you've got a lead singer and the lead guitarist has a certain level of singing skill, well, then they do back up at certain points, or like you get nice little duet
moments of harmony.
Harmony moments, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I could see that working really well because I could imagine a situation where you can just have bits of songs or bits of music that you can bring in or not based on your combination of band members, right?
Yeah, and I'm almost liking each boss fight that you get into, like in the main missions and that sort of stuff, how there's sometimes at the end of the mission there'll be a big boss that sort of works its way out. You can actually, play a song, or a song starts to play, and as you're sort of going through, if you hit in time with the music that is playing, you get extra power starts building up and until you hit a threshold, and then I think the explosive power comes out as you do a power chord or something like that. I'm always thinking very much a Bill and Ted sort of thing, of the air guitar sort of thing that you can actually, sort of air guitar it.
Yeah.
Because it actually turns out that you don't actually need the instruments to harness the power. It's just...
Well, yeah, or in an Artful Escape kind of way, you could just have these instruments that appear in your hands when you need to rock out and just like disappear back into the ether when you stop. I think we want to make it a bit more skill based than something like the Artful Escape. Like we want it to always sound good, but you can miss, like you can fail, essentially. But it's always going to rock out. It just means that they rocked out harder.
But that obviously, when you get to that mid-scene thing, that's a set piece that you're always going to, no matter what you do, the power is just going to build up and up and up and up and up until it's out of control.
Yeah, that's essentially needed. Like you said, a set piece. It's a story beat that has to happen.
Because it sets you on into the dark world, kind of like the Legend of Zelda Link to the Past sort of thing, of you thought that you gathered everything and thought that you're ready for the showdown with the other band members.
But you're only actually halfway through the game. And
yeah, you're actually only halfway through the game.
Is the rest of the game you trying to like gain enough control over your power to turn back time through your rock and undo that event that destroyed the world?
Well, maybe. That could actually be kind of cool.
But you fail, and you have to, at the end, accept your place in having done this to the world and move forward in this now destroyed fantasy rock world. And then the sequel you start and your band is like the worst enemy. You're essentially, everyone hates you now.
I kind of like the idea that right at the end, Jack Black, in his character from Brutal Legend, turns up and says, "You need to find the pick of destiny." Sort of,
you guys need a roadie,
and it's kind of like, oh my god, it's Double Fine and Tenacious D and everything sort of all together.
All together.
That's cool.
That's awesome. I
really enjoy that.
Jack Black's in Psychonauts 2, by the way.
Cool. Can't wait to...
Yeah, I didn't recognize him immediately, but then there's a scene where the character sings. I'm like, that's fucking Jack Black.
Okay, 3 to 1 click.
Yeah. Oh, this kind of works with Threshold a bit. Raising maximum.
Childish discarding.
Okay. So I'm thinking, childish brings me to like the schoolyard in some sort of school-based something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe raising maximum is actually about, there's a kid whose name is Maximum, and it's about raising him as a child rearing.
Raising, maximum, discarding. This is all like poker terms sort of stuff, or gambling terms, and childish is it's set in a crèche.
It's the secret poker game behind the rocking horse.
I'll raise you 3 dummies.
Okay. I call a juice box and show me a hand. So is this just a poker game with a a baby theme pasted across it, or are we gonna use that scene as inspiration for a larger world?
Let's use that scene as inspiration for a larger world, because it's a fun scene, but it's not a full game's worth of stuff. We're not a Sierra producing Hoyle's Book of Games. We're a Bitstorm producing narrative.
I was thinking also like a Telltale. They did their like poker night or whatever. Yeah. No, I think we can go further than that. Okay. I like that idea then of, I mean, I guess it brings sort of Boss Baby-ish vibes, or Little Herman from Roger Rabbit kind of thing, of these babies acting like adults.
Okay, now I'm picturing it's kind of like that scene from that classic painting of the dogs playing poker, but it's all the kids playing poker and they've all got cigars.
Except they're dummies. They've got dummies just like hanging out of their mouth.
The dummies
casually.
just sort of hanging out with, the handle just sort of swinging in the breeze.
Swinging. Okay, I think this is a really hardcore noir setting then.
Mm-hmm.
It's a film noir setting in a creche, basically, or in a kindergarten.
So is it all black and white?
Or at least just we bring in some of those like harsh, contrasting colours and stuff. Maybe just muted colours at the very least. The voiceover, but it's all, we can't understand what they're saying because it's just baby speak. No, that might be too much. But definitely the voiceover.
Okay. One of the babies has like the gruffest.
Well, I think maybe I was just about to say, does your character, their like internal monologue is the classic, like, I walked in and they were all playing poker, the dummies hanging out of their mouth. I knew something was going down. And then they speak and it's just like, Hawaka
Okay. Now, have a think who you want to play the gruff voice, because this actor that has to play the gruff voice is also playing the baby talk.
Okay, they're doing both.
Yep.
Okay. Do you have someone in mind?
Okay, I'm getting someone in mind now. On the count of...
All right. Okay. I've got someone.
I've got someone too.
All right.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Clint
Josh
Eastwood.
Brolin. Both of those would work. Both of those would work. I could see a bit of a Thanos baby talk sort of crossover. Yeah.
Yep. But also, a classic Clint Eastwood, sort of snarl.
Dirty Harry-ish sort of situation.
And then him having to somewhat do the baby talk is just freaking hilarious.
I feel like Josh Brolin is much more likely to play with that Clint Eastwood.
The other person that I was thinking of was Nick Nolte.
Okay.
Because of the gruffness, but no, I do like you, Josh.
Interestingly, my mind first went to Seth Rogen, which he doesn't actually quite have the gravitas that you would want, I think, but he does have a bit of that gruffness to his voice, and then could also do the comedic aspects of it. So,
no, but I think you're actually right with the Josh Brolin.
I think that could work. Yeah.
Yep.
He can do the comedy side of things.
He can do the comedy side of things. He was a Goonie, so that's a plus in my book. Like,
oh my God, he was, wasn't he? That's hilarious. I'd forgotten.
So adding all these things together, that's just perfect. So he plays a baby / and noir sort of. So detective.
is he? I was going to say, do we do the classic? He's the PI in this creche daycare. Let's say daycare because creche is a weird word.
Yes.
Okay, Josh Brolin as he's got the hat and the trench coat.
Yep.
But he's wearing a fucking nappy.
It's that whole detective baby legs from bloody Rick and Morty.
Detective baby legs. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What then is the grand crime that's gone down here? That's the thing that he's really chasing after this whole game.
It's got to be like the case of the missing milk.
Or the like...
Case of the missing formula?
Does it go further? Is it the case of the poisoned formula? So one of the babies got sick from this, well, they assume from this formula. That's what we set it up as. Maybe you find out that that's not what it was at all. Who knows?
It was actually tainted breast milk.
It was actually just that he's a fucking baby and babies throw up all the time.
It's actually the fact
that's the only thing that happened.
They're lactose intolerant and they were given the lactose formula.
Well, I kind of love that idea that but that baby had that formula and then threw up immediately afterwards. And it was like, yeah, fucking we all do. What are you talking about? If we don't get burped, we're going to throw up. So on that note, where do the carers come into this? Are they present at all, or is this more of a imaginary fantasy world where they're not really around, or is it a Muppet Babies kind of situation?
It's a Muppet Babies sort of situation where you see the legs occasionally come in on the huge fucking legs, but when you look up, it the fog actually obscures above the skirt line.
That's great, because I was going to say, how do we? Because you could do a lot with this from the visual style. Of do we actually set this in a city, but it's the implication is it's the imagination of these kids and they're actually in this daycare.
Yeah.
And so you've got the reading corner is the bar on that's down the street that they all go to.
Yeah.
And you've got nap time, which is the fucking
the hotel or whatever.
Okay, good. Hotel. I was going to say brothel. Fuck no, man. Maybe not. The hotel. Perfect.
It's a hotel, but they do charge by the hour.
Rooms by the hour. But only because Mum's coming to pick me up at 3 because she's only got a half day. And then, yes, I love the idea that you almost don't even address it. You just have these giant creatures walking through sometimes, obscured by the fog and behind the clouds, that are the carers that will come along and, yeah.
And pluck a character out
pluck a child out of the scene.
And that's the last time I saw Danny that day, as he got taken home by his mum.
You just build that into that's just a natural occurrence, of course. It's just it was clocking out time. Danny's mum picked him up.
It's because you exhausted all Danny's dialogue.
Yeah.
And he was no longer needed for
plucked out of the sky. Plucked from the sky. That's really fucking good. I like that a lot.
Yep.
So, okay. You're hunting down the formula. Is there a bad guy? Is there your nemesis? Is there some other baby who you suspect did something here?
Suspect because, they've always got, you know how you got that gold standard formula? I'm just imagining that, they're always getting the best formula and everyone else is not always getting that, but it's because their mum brings it from home. But you as a baby don't understand this.
Jackie thought she ran this place just because she had 2 of her teeth in already. But we all knew better.
That was bad about this.
Just whenever they talk, it's subtitles over baby talk.
Yeah.
Does that mean the only actual dialogue is the internal monologue?
Yes.
Might be, yeah. But we still get an all-star cast for the other characters. And they literally just do baby talk.
There's a scene in the middle where it flicks over to one of the one of the other views, like you actually get to play like
like inside the head of someone else. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like in Leisure Suit Larry 5, in between certain parts, you switch between Passionate Patty and Leisure Suit Larry. I like the idea of you get to switch to like his secretary, and she's the actual one who's doing, well, she does a lot of the investigative work on the side as well. And, you know, it's actually the two of them working together, but she can get in places that he can't, and
because
all that sort of stuff.
She is chronically ill, and so she can get into like the sick bay. Or no, she's not chronically ill, but her mother is a hypochondriac. So the workers are always like checking her really carefully and taking her to like, you know, the back room with that's where the baby ibuprofen is.
Okay.
And we suspect that that's what was put in the formula.
Okay, so now we get to choose who the female lead is.
Okay. What sort of vibe do we want them to have?
Youngish.
So interestingly, and I think this is only coming up because I just saw her in something recently. I'm thinking like a Linda Cardellini kind of thing.
Okay. I was thinking Kate Blanchett or an Anne Hathaway.
Okay, yeah, that could work too. Yeah. Yeah, they're all kind of
or Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt could be amazing.
That could work.
Yeah. I like an Emily Blunt.
Sure, let's go Emily Blunt. She's kind of up there at the moment.
It makes me wonder, do we bring John Krasinski in to like play the love interest of
We bring him in, but he plays a character who just mugs at the camera all the time. He's like just constantly breaking the fourth wall. So yeah, okay, I like Emily Blunt in there as the
female
sort
lead.
of partner in crime, the female lead.
So she's the only other voice actor throughout this whole thing. Because,
yeah, and we maybe even switch
you
back
actually
and forth between those two main characters essentially at different times.
Yeah.
Does she have the same serious noir vibe, or is she a bit more playful with it? Perhaps does she kind of understand that Josh Brolin's character is hamming it up a bit, or that the whole world is hamming it up a bit,
and she doesn't quite understand it? It's a very look who's talking now vibe of like, I can see that she actually understands of.
Is she maybe a bit older?
I've been in this daycare for 7 weeks now.
Yeah.
Been in the daycare for 7 weeks, alive for 1 year.
Life was flashing before my eyes. How did time go so quickly?
Seconds now seemed like seconds. Before they seemed like minutes.
Seconds now seem like longer seconds.
No, shorter seconds.
Shorter seconds. Right.
Shorter seconds than before because
I can't read time, so I don't know what a second is.
Oh my God. So, because object permanence isn't a thing for these babies yet, when they turn around, they're like, where'd they go?
Well, okay. I think it's maybe a bit much to do there for all of them. I think there's one character who is younger than the rest who does not yet have their object permanence hasn't come in yet, and the other characters comment on it. And yes, like you can just walk behind them and they don't remember you exist.
Oh my God, you exist.
Every time you're interrogating them. And you're doing the whole, like, they're in the chair and you're walking around the chair, like, dramatically. And every time you come
Where's
in
that
front
voice
of them,
coming
they're
from?
like, who are you? Where'd you come from?
Every time they blink, they're like,
God damn it, can we find someone with some object permanence?
Every time they blink, they're like, where'd you go?
They take a nap. The whole world resets. I like that even just as a one-off gag almost of...
Yeah.
Trying to interrogate someone without object permanence and just like being, oh, for Christ, can we get their partner in here?
3 to 1 click.
All right. That's a good one, though. I feel like you could get deep on that. Ooh, okay. postal charm.
Grim adaptation.
Ooh. But we already did the grim Postman Pat.
Postman Pat, Postman Pat, Postman Pat, and his black and white cat.
Okay, what other... Okay, all right.
I forgot that we did that, and that is so metal that it's come up again.
What
so
other
it's the sequel.
Postmen are there? No, what other... Let's not do Postman Pat. What other postmen are there in popular culture that we can reboot in a gritty... Well, yeah, I don't think there are enough like fictional postman characters out there, and I don't know that a Newman from Seinfeld's grim story would work really well. And
we both don't know Kevin Costner's The Postman that well. So
let's come up with something new, but a postal worker story. Well, okay, and threshold makes me think of like a point that you do not go past as a postal worker.
Okay. Why do you not go downtown?
I mean, presumably it's
different. Is that a different, like postal areas, like dropping off point?
So it's about like the territories of the postal workers in this place, and it gets violent and dangerous.
Ooh, it's Paperboy, like the 3D gritty remake.
Paperboy.
But instead of papers,
now he's not just a paperboy, he's a postman.
Yeah. So we actually take this character of Paperboy, and he's now come up in the world, and he still loves delivering things, but now he wants to deliver things to specific people instead of just going down and having to, throw everything out at everyone, at every single person.
Yeah, like deliver to every house. Yeah.
He actually is delivering packages and mail along his route, but there are certain places that he's not allowed to go because the boundaries have been drawn in a weird way in this world.
Is this then an Assassin's Creed-esque open-ish world where you can see, you get warnings, right? If you go into someone else's, territory.
You may be going down this street, and for some reason, this one house, in fact, these 3 houses in this one little row have been jutted into someone else's area. Yeah. And then the other house on the other side is in your area.
Yeah. So you either have to find a way around, or you have to risk going through their area and not being seen. So are there stealth aspects then, or is it more around the parkour kind of thing, or combat, or all of the above? I suppose could be an option.
Yeah, I'm kind of liking the idea of you have a van, but there are certain times that you got to get out.
You got to get out. Yeah, yeah. Because I was going to say I like the idea of the mail delivery person with their bag of mail as well, and just having that as their running and jumping through the city. But yes, having the van that you have to go back to,
which is a full-on armored van,
oh yeah, it's like Mad Max style, spikes on the side, and yeah.
If you didn't lock it, you come back and that thing's now on fucking
blocks,
on the blocks, and the tires are all gone and all that sort of stuff.
And not to even mention all the undelivered mail that you had that's now going to be taken out of either out of your salary or out of your flesh. I like the idea of this really high stakes mail delivery.
So, in a day, basically you have to get that you have all this mail to deliver.
Yep.
And your shift doesn't end until it's all been delivered.
Okay. I was more thinking you've got all this mail to deliver. You can do it however you want, but any undelivered mail is a penalty of some sort at the end of the day. And there may be some that will be higher penalty because it was either more expensive or it was to a more important customer or a more important person, right? If you don't deliver that one piece of mail to the crime boss of this area, then you're going to be in deep shit.
Yeah. Okay. So what are your defenses? I'm thinking the combat is very, very much the same sort of combat systems out of like the Batman Arkham games.
Yeah.
And, you know, Shadow of Mordor sort of thing of...
Sorry, I just had the idea that, like, you're using your mailbag as a weapon, but you hit someone over the head of it and, like, mail comes flying out and you have to collect it again because you need to deliver that shit. You could just use that as an effect and pretend that that's the unimportant mail, but that could be an interesting little thing of, like, you can't just hack and slash your way through somewhere because you're going to leave a bunch of mail behind if you decide to cut and run. You have to beat this bunch of people and then, quickly pick up all the mail before you move on.
Yeah.
to not get those penalties. So are you an independent contractor in this area? Or I was thinking maybe you're working for, like, there are these big competing
mail companies. Yeah.
Mail companies that essentially have, like, for whatever reason, it's post-apocalyptic in some way where physical delivery is the only safe way to send information. And so those people who are brave enough to do that, and the companies who have built up those stables of people who will do that.
Ever since the robotic uprising and their leaders, the Amazon drones.
I like that idea, actually, of, like, automated mail delivery becoming the enemy and thus can no longer be trusted. And so now we're back to physical, to human mail delivery people. I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, it's because Skynet was just so fucked up. Like...
PrimeNet. Fucking Amazon PrimeNet came online.
So this is after all the Terminator wars, and this is just the remnants. But I'm picturing...
I don't know. I wonder, are there still these drones and stuff that you also have to fight? Like, you're not only just fighting the other territories of the other mail companies, but you are sometimes having to fight off these automated mail delivery things who are maybe still in use by, certain
until
people.
You take them down and you manage to collect the scraps, take them to your actual, like,
headquarters or whatever.
Your science advisor at Planet Express or whatever, whoever you're delivering for. Take it to Dr. Farnsworth, and he manages to, turn him onto your side. Build some
sort of death clock out of it.
Convert it to your side. So now you've got, like, a drone that can actually follow you and
bring in some Watch Dogs sort of vibes where you can, like, okay, I'm going to stay out of, like, in my territory over here, but I'm going to fly this drone. I've got a certain distance. I can fly it to deliver this mail, and maybe it gets shot down. Now you've got to, if you still want to deliver that, you have to go into their territory and collect it, in a dangerous way, or you leave it, and then you can build more drones as you get more parts. Yeah, that's cool.
There's bollards all over the city. Like, there's certain neighborhoods that they don't want cars coming in, so you have to get out and pack up. Okay, I've got 3 bits of mail that I need to deliver to this this court or whatever.
Yeah.
So you go in there and it's like...
Well, I think also, I think as you go on, so I think maybe at the start you are mostly competing in territories with the other mail companies that have human carriers and you're fighting them. But this is more of the, like, lower working class areas. When you get into the upper class areas where the real money is as well, they're still on board with the drones and stuff. Like, that's where the automated stuff is still in full use. Because, of course, the fucking, like, 1% don't give a shit that they're essentially taking over the world because they just want to get their mail on time. And so that's where, once you start getting up to those levels, it's getting more and more dangerous because there's all these automated bots and drones and different things.
I'm imagining a few different set pieces. Like, you roll up to, this beautiful apartment block, and just as you enter, you hear the squealing of an Amazon drone coming in or whatever it's called in this thing. And it's basically, they've obviously just put in an order for Amazon Prime and, you know, it's, you know, deliver in 30 minutes or you get it for free sort of thing.
It's deliver in 3 minutes and 27 seconds or your money back.
And you're about to get into the lift.
Yeah.
And it comes screaming in and, you know, you have like a fight scene between you and this
in the elevator. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
Or you're evading detection if you know, you're, you know, so I'm imagining that you see it sort of turning around in a circle and you're having to keep
you have to stay outside. Behind it. And then you realize, oh shit,
let's turn back the other way.
This elevator is mirrored. Damn it. I like that a lot. That's really cool. A fucking post-apocalyptic mail parkour open world delivery game.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we need one final thing. Who is the main boss?
Bezos.
Yeah, but I think he's been turned into like an artificial intelligence.
Yes, he's like definitely like half robot, half.
Well, he loaded his brain into the like.
Oh, that's actually what triggered PrimeNet.
Yeah, into AWS.
Bezos,
like
Bezos uploading himself to S3. Simple storage service, motherfucker.
It's actually Synaptic storage service.
Synaptic storage service. AWS's new offering. Available only to billionaires and above.
That's fucking great.
I like that.
That may actually be the name of the episode, Synaptic storage service.
Yes. Yes.
Either that or taste the painbow.
Yeah. or just like, yeah, Amazon PrimeNet is kind of, I like that too. But. All right. Well, on that note, I think we will end the episode. Thank you for joining us this week on Bitstorm. If you want to find us online, go to podchaser.com/Bitstorm. Check out all of our previous episodes. 250 next week.
What are we going to do?
The big millennium, the quarter that doesn't work because a mil is a million. The quarter grand. I don't know.
Quarter grand.
I don't know what we're going to do. I do not know. But we'll do something a little bit different. But go and catch up. If you want to catch up before next week, go to podchaser.com/Bitstorm.
Listen to it all on 2-speed.
Yeah.
And
you'll get through it.
You'll get through it
by then.
Well, maybe you won't. Maybe you should have started. Like, why didn't you start like a few months ago? Like, go back.
It's true. How many hours in a week? Only.
Don't sleep.
Less than 250. So, yeah.
But at 2-speed, like
at 2-speed, at 2-speed you get through it as long as you don't sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
just have it on day and night, and you hear our sultry voices.
Hear our soothing voices. Let them put you to sleep and inhabit your dreams.
That's a scary thought. If you like those scary thoughts and you want to have more of our scary thoughts, go listen to Containment Failure, the album by Kurodust. There's a song on there called Kurodust that we talked about before. There's also a song on there called Mount Defiance, and that is our opener and closer each week. So go check that out.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
My head is exploding. In flavor.
Taste the painbow.